What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Three View. Today, we are joined by El Paso Rhinos head coach Alex Sherman. How's your summer been going?
Been going good. It's been really busy, grinding the camp season. We just finished our last free agent camp last weekend, so just getting ready for training camp.
Oh, yeah. You're on toll, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, big time.
And we'll start by reflecting on last season. So, although things maybe didn't go your way, you guys didn't make the playoffs, you did have one of the youngest rosters with only two age out players. Having the team been so young, how did you see them kind of grow and develop over the course of the year?
Absolutely. They really matured. When we recruited the team last summer, we really focused on kids that had good heads on their shoulders. Maybe didn't have the junior experience, but were ready to make the jump. And, I was really proud of how they matured, on and off the ice. And I'm, really looking forward to continuing that process this year.
And like I said, with only two age out players, one of them is heading off to play NCAA Division III college at Hiram. What does that say about your development model that you have in process that, that he's able to commit, even though you guys, might not have had the best record?
Absolutely. Our development model, we really focus on trying to get players to that next level. I tell everyone when we recruit them, my goal is to not have you in the NA3 for more than a year. Obviously, if you want to come back, that's awesome. But, our goal is to develop players from, what they come in as to what they leave as. And, obviously getting the NCAA, commit this year was huge for Ronaldo. He was a 3-year player. So he kind of went through the whole process. He loved it here. He already texted me and said he was coming back to visit this year. So, we're excited. But this year we're going to continue to build on that. Between Coach Rivera and the North American League and myself, we're really going to be, hammering phone calls with college coaches and try and get that number up for next year.
And you yourself spent time with both the NA team and the 3HL team. What was that experience like, having been involved with both programs at both levels?
It was really exciting. I'm here. I played for the Rhinos back in the day, and now to be able to coach at both levels is great. I learned a lot between the NA and the NA3, and hopefully going to use those learned lessons to help build this NA3 program probably back to where it should be.
And what were some of the biggest lessons that you're probably going to implement this upcoming year, behind the NA3 bench?
Details. That was the biggest thing that I noticed in the North American League, that everything comes down to details. The video side of things, we're really going to hammer that as well. I had a lot of time that I spent with the Catapult video software this year, and then TPE editing, cutting film for players, doing video pregame skates, practice. So we're going to be really focused on, details in video, and then obviously translating that onto the ice.
And you talked about earlier how you are often in communication with Mike Rivera with the NA team. What is it like for players being around the NA team on a daily basis and, seeing what it takes to get to that next level?
It's definitely an eye opener. I feel like there's a lot of kids out there that think, oh, I'm ready for tier two, oh, I'm ready for tier two. And they don't make the team and they come to tier three. And we practice right before the NA team every day. So
Mhm.
they get to see, how they prepare, being stretching or whatever it might be, and then hopping on the ice and seeing that intensity on the ice, really helps, I think, the players understand what that next level is like. We try and run it as similar as physically possible to the North American League. And, we're really happy to be able to have both organization or both teams in the organization, 15 feet apart from each other, our locker rooms, and being able to see what a grind it is in the NA. And like, it's an eye opener. Like I said, there's some kids that think they're ready and they're not. And then they come here and see them practice and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I am a couple steps off. So, that's our part of the whole development process, but it's good for them to be able to see it in person every day.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Have it being eye-opening. You might not see it if you're at, a different team that's not around the NA team every day.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a benefit in our hands. We get to have players practice and play games with the North American team. And, if somebody's sick, hey, come across the hall. So it's huge for kids.
And with the team being so young from last year, who sticks out to you as a returner that could kind of step into more of a leadership role this year?
Absolutely. I'm looking at Donovan Bradford to be one of the leaders. This will be his third season here as well. He came to us from Mason City 2 years ago, about Christmas time, and then he's been here since. We're really looking for him to step up, be that leader in the locker room as we don't have any, too many age outs. We signed a couple more this summer, but, he's going to be one that knows the culture, knows what we expect. And I see him being one of the guys that I'm going to lean on heavily this year.
And what do you think his message will be to the younger players about the culture that you guys have established?
It's very important to be bought into it. And I think he's going to be, very, straightforward with everyone. Like that if you don't buy into the culture, then you're probably not going to be here for too long, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because culture is the biggest thing here. It's a we, not me, mindset. And, some kids don't understand that and they'll, hopefully they don't have to learn the hard way. But,
Right.
Bradford will be, a big voice and making sure the players are buying into the culture.
And what is your biggest goal for this year, whether that's on the ice, off the ice, or, just overall in general?
First off, I'd love to see as many college commitments as physically possible, or tier two commits for next year. But at the end of the day, the Rhino way is winning. Back in the Western States League, we put up a lot of banners, and we haven't been able to do so in the NA3 or the North American League yet. And my first year coaching here, we had an early first round exit against Louisiana, so I have a little, bitter taste in my mouth, and I got something to prove here. So obviously, Fraser Cup is number one. We're gonna make a run for it and do what we can to get there, and develop the players along the way, and it's gonna be a good year.
And with the South Division splitting up from last year, is there any games that you're super excited for, with the new, I guess, rivalries in our new South Division?
Of course. I mean, I always get excited for the Brahmas and New Mexico, of course, but Austin had a great year last year. Tulsa and West Texas, like I'm excited to have, West Texas be in the game, and we'll
Mhm.
see how everything goes. But, I'm just really excited to be back and ready to grind in this new division.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for giving us your insight and good luck this upcoming year.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.